Well, hello, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime. Just so all of you know, we do 3 broadcasts a week. One Friday lunchtime, like now, which is our skills broadcast. And then we do another one this evening, which is our laughter broadcast. And then we do a third one on a Sunday afternoon, which is we call our Soul Sunday. And before we get into the main part of today, which is going to be talking about our mental health during a crisis like this, what I want you to do is just make sure that we acknowledge the fact that for all of you who are practicing Christians, it is Good Friday. And I'm pretty sure that that is difficult for a lot of people with the social distancing and not being allowed to go to celebrate Good Friday. You know, Good Friday is the day when a lot of Christians spend an awful lot of time in church, and this year they won't be able to. But quite honestly, it is what it is. And, you know, from that perspective, just know that you are saving lives by staying at home and watching the masses from home. Rather than going to church. And I do need you to know that that is really important. And I'm pretty certain that that would be the most Christian thing you could do in so many ways. All right, that I am certain that you will all make up for it in different ways during the course of the year when we are safe to go out again. So please don't feel any guilt about that. This is beyond your control. This is not a level of your commitment or to your faith. This is not possible this year. And, you know, one of the other things that I want to talk about is the fact that, you know, for those of you who celebrated Passover, you know, these are like really important religious traditions. And I think that is part of why I wanted to talk about our mental health at this time. Because quite honestly, not being able to keep to your traditions will affect your mental health in some way. Have any of you found that already? And if you have, for those of you who are watching on the live broadcast, you know, give me some feedback. Or if you're watching on the replay, you know, feel free to make some comments here. And by the way, while we're doing that, just wanted to remind you to please make sure that you click the subscribe button and the bell. And when you click the bell, please remember to click all notifications. Did I get it right, Jody? And for those of you who don't know, Jody is our admin. And so, you know, that is where we let you know when a broadcast is coming up. But if you follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, I will put up a 35-minute warning of when we're going to do a broadcast. Well, sometimes it's 35, sometimes it's 30. It has been as little as 15 if I totally missed my timing. But, you know, that is where I give you some advanced warning. Now, you're probably wondering, why have I got the plants in the background? Yes and no. This is what I call Jody time. Jody likes to see how I'm doing with my indoor gardening, if you like. All these things I'm going to show you are things that I have grown from the stubs. For example, you know, these are 4 lettuces, or lettuce, where I ate all the lettuce, but I put the very end of it in to see if it would grow. And they are doing really well. And these are 2 more in here, actually 2 more in here, a couple of leeks in here, and an onion that you can't see. My favorite, of course, is this butter lettuce. And Jody, I'm pretty sure you're very impressed to see how well it obviously loves it where it's growing. So I'm just letting it grow. And by the way, I thought it looked much more elegant in a wine glass, in fact, a champagne flute. I thought it deserved to be in one. The trick here, by the way, people, is to make sure you change the water every day if you're going to do this. I just want to see, quite honestly, how many lettuce I need to have growing at the same time to be able to feed me for a week. That's my ultimate goal. And just so you know exactly what I'm talking about, this is a lettuce, romaine lettuce, that I had this week and finished, and I just literally took the stub and I dropped it in water. All right, that's all I've done with these that you're looking at. Jody, we've got quite the bush growing on the mint. For those of you who don't know, I bought some mint in a package. Hi, Isabel. Yeah, the lettuce looks great, doesn't it? I bought some mint in a closed package and just dropped it in water. And this will feed me mint for the rest of the year. I'm not going to put it in the garden because mint is invasive. And really, all I keep doing is I will take the top here and throw it into my water bottle. And for some reason, Jody will be able to advise me on this. Jody, is there some sort of antibacterial effect quality to mint? The reason I ask that is because I've noticed when I throw this into my water bottle, it doesn't seem to go off. Whereas if I throw a piece of fruit or something, it ferments. But if I throw a piece, just the top piece of mint, I'm noticing that it just seems to stay quite fresh in there. So that was pretty good. And then this one is my bok choy that I did the same thing with. All right, I finished the bok choy and just thought I'd try the experiment. And I put the bottom of the bok choy in some water. Once I started to see growth, I put it in some soil. And as you can see, it's growing. And again, how many bok choy do I need growing to be able to feed myself on a weekly basis? And of course, this was the onion. I'm sorry I broke that. I'll cut that off and use it in something this week. But this is the onion, bottom of the onion, as you can see. I had a big onion, big red onion, and I just took the bottom of it and I let it grow. So literally, I let it grow like this. And I am waiting until something starts to show green at the top. And when it does, I will then plant this. And this is celery. And I don't know if you can see. Hang on, let me get it so I can get a good angle. Can you see that little bit of growth right at the very top there? And yet there are no roots showing yet, but there will be. So I'm going to sort of have a wine glass garden. I can't entertain, so let me just grow things in them instead, which I consider to be a fun experiment. So as you can see, I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I got asked last week, did I do anything special? No, really, I didn't. Yes. Okay. So Jody is saying, seeing all this green, all this life makes me smile. That is exactly why I'm doing it. And by the way, Jody, I haven't taken a picture this week, but I've now got carrot, leeks, radishes actually in the garden. And I will take some pictures for you guys and show you. So I'm quite, I've got them under shoe boxes at the moment. What I do is I let them enjoy the day, and at night I tuck them in with a shoebox because just in case the weather does turn too cold, it'll help protect them a little bit. And also, it just acts as a greenhouse, obviously. So there we go. I agree with you, Jody, that a part of my joy each day is to go out and tend to my real garden and my indoor garden, as I call it. And I've got a whole stack of stuff that you can't see on my dining room table that I'm growing as well. And even I thought I'd show you this. I'm reusing things that I got lettuce in. I think this was lettuce. Was it lettuce? Oh no, this was a strawberry container. But look at all the tomatoes that are growing there. And by the way, those tomatoes came from taking a tomato out of my fridge and slicing it and just dropping it until the seeds germinated. And then I transplanted them. So you don't have to spend money, right? None of this stuff is stuff that I spent money on seeds. I spent money on buying the vegetables and then started to grow them. And as some of you know, I've got the system that I use with the carrots, and I wait until the greenery starts growing up here. Hang on. Like this. I just drop them in water, and I wait until the greenery is growing here, but more importantly, that I start seeing roots coming out, which means that it's growing. Then I drop them into a toilet paper roll. Oh, look at this, toilet paper roll with a little bit of earth. And now that the roots are coming out of the toilet paper roll, I know that that's a pretty healthy piece of carrot. Do you all agree? This is going in the garden this week because it's the roots have come all the way through. And that's how I do it. Now, I don't know when I'm going to harvest them or how. It's all part of the big experiment. But I just want to show you that I didn't spend money on these things. These are things that I just have literally grown from the tops of carrots. So we'll see. I find it very exciting, quite honestly. Today, I wanted to talk about... hold on one second. It really helps if you have... I don't know why I clean forgot to get my tablet ready, but I did. So I can forgive myself for that. I'm sorry. Me too. All right, let's do this. I want to talk a little bit about your mental survival because I think it's different from your physical survival. And because of that, I thought I would have a look at somebody I really respect, and that is Scott Kelly, who was the astronaut who went up and spent nearly a year, just under a year in space. Now, can you imagine he couldn't even open the door to get some fresh air? So I thought he had a lot to teach us. And I hope that you will agree. Okay, so Sakura is saying that her mental is okay, but she's obsessing over small things. Okay, do you want to give us an example? And thank you for letting us know that, because you're not the only one, all right? And that's what we're going to be talking about, is understand you are not alone in this, all right? And by the way, if any of you have a particular subject that you would like me to talk about, make sure you let me know at DearMamaSal@gmail.com. And for those of you who are new, understand that you're more than welcome to join in the conversation. If you are new to me or new enough that I don't know you pretty well, that I will probably ask if I can repeat what you've said on the chat. because you may not know that the chat goes up on the live broadcast, whereas the regulars know that, and I don't even worry anymore. They know that it's going to go up. And so, Sakura, it's interesting to hear you say that you're obsessing over smaller things. I found that I had a strange week happen, and I wanted to talk about that. So maybe I can dovetail it into what you're finding as well. And if anybody else is noticing that now it's starting to have an effect, let's talk about it. So let's understand what survival is, because it is important. The act or fact of survival, especially under adverse or unusual circumstance. You see, surviving is a skill, right? It's not something, I think part of us is naturally a survivor, right? We've got this fight or flight reaction within us that either we're going to stand up and fight what we're, the big ugly thing that we're looking at, or we're going to run and hide, whichever we think will suit us best. And, you know, there are times to stand up and fight. And I think there are also times when it's okay to run away and hide. And one of the things I found really interesting is when they interviewed Scott Kelly, you know, he was one of a twin. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to send him off into space and monitor what happened to his body and mind for being away in the space station for a year, and then to see what the difference was with his twin, and to see what effect being in space for a year would do. Now, the reason they want to do that is because they're thinking about sending people to Mars, and they're going to be in space for a year. All right, so Sakura said, I wanted to put all my activity books into a box. And I now have coloring books from the Philippines, and I can't find them. So I couldn't stop looking and thinking about them. Okay, now that's pretty interesting, Sakura, because to me, that is part of your past that you wanted to put away carefully. All right. And I can understand that. Funny enough, have any of you, other than myself and Jody as well, Sakura, and I'm going to talk about that. Have any of you found that you're missing something that you want? And I think it's relevant, all right? Jody couldn't find the leads to her sewing machine. I can't find the leads that go into my silhouette. It's like a cricket. And so therefore, for Jody and myself, it was like, where are these leads? I know they're here. I just can't find them. And I think we need to be aware of that. I'd like to suggest, Sakura, that you take a really deep breath, and it's Good Friday, so give thanks and say, apparently I don't need to hide them away carefully yet. All right, I would take that as a pretty good indication that you don't need to keep looking for them. And that way you probably will find them. One of the things that I found interesting when they interviewed Scott Kelly was the interviewer said to him, you know, that little boys and girls often say they want to be astronauts when they grow up. And there is very little in your background. Poor grades at school, an abusive father, blue-collar neighborhood, very little that suggests you had the right stuff. So you understand, Scott Kelly wasn't what I call, you know, somebody that they might have thought of. I'm pretty certain his teachers at school are going, he did what? Certain teachers, you know, that nearly flunked him at school, you know, he became an astronaut. You got to be kidding. And so I think it's really important that we understand that just because we're not smart at school does not mean that we are not capable of being very smart. All right. I've always said when I interviewed people for a job and they didn't have all the necessary qualifications, I said, oh, good. And they go, why? And I said, that means you'll work twice as hard. You see, you don't have some entitlement on your shoulder going, well, I've got a PhD in this, therefore, no, you're going to work really hard to show me that even though you don't have a PhD in this, that you are more than capable of doing the job. So I actually used to enjoy that. And I always found that to be true. So Jody's saying, we're stocking up on pantry items, but I find I'm worrying that it's not enough, no matter what we buy. I think from all the panic buying that created the shortages, I worry about availability. Yes. So Jody, a very good point. That's called being prepared, and we'll get to that again. And if I don't get to it again, come back to me on that. Sakura is saying, thank you. I wasn't intending to hide it. I wanted to put it in a box beside the table to do coloring with my hubby, but I do understand. I did take a breath and it helped. It will show up later. Yeah, absolutely. I just, ask St. Anthony to look for it. I know St. Anthony keeps telling me that those leads, they're going to come up when they're good and ready. And I don't have to worry about them right now. So when they interviewed Scott Kelly, can you imagine he is trapped within this space, a space that would make most of us cringe, and nothing is easy, all right? Nothing, to wash your teeth is not easy. To brush your teeth, to brush your hair is not easy. To go to the washroom is not easy. And 9 times out of 10, apparently, the bathroom toilet system failed. And you can't just call the plumber in. So everything about being on the space station required great mental magic. And what I wanted to know was, what was it that kept him going? The interesting thing is that his fellow crew members said that he was as funny, encouraging, and helpful on the day that he left the space station as he was on the day he arrived. They said that the one thing about Scott Kelly that absolutely fascinated them was that he stayed the same. And I thought, boy, he must have had such incredible control over his mind. All right, so Sakura is saying about the stocking up of the pantry. Sakura is saying, I agree with you, Jody. That's how I feel too. They're looking at the storages that I put food and snacks in, and it is full. So it helped me to be at ease seeing it full. Every time we go out now, I add a little. That's exactly what I wanted to suggest to you all. A month ago, I could see this was going to happen, and that's why I suggested that you stock up. Now it's a case of topping up the stock up. All right. So I, for example, have found out that I am nearly 2 weeks ahead in ordering food, just by virtue of the fact I can't get it delivered. The only date I can get is like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead. So I'm just ordering food on that basis. And quite honestly, this week I have run out of fresh vegetables for the first time. And I can't remember exactly what I ordered to come in this week. But you understand, this is like I can manage without fresh vegetables because I've made a plan. I've got frozen vegetables. It's not that I can't have vegetables, it's just my fresh vegetables have run out. And by the way, that's part of why I want to have my kitchen garden, is so that I can have, I can at least have some fresh lettuce. I might not be able to have a full salad, but I can have a sandwich with some fresh lettuce in it. All right, that is the whole point that I'm doing this. So one of the things that Scott Kelly said about what he did, and this is something that we've talked about, is that he had a very strict routine. You know, he got up in the morning and he was grateful to wake up. And he would do all his, brush your teeth, do whatever stuff, and be happy that everything worked. And, it was amazing how he said he filled up his whole day with routine. And what I want to find out from you guys is, are you doing that now? Are you working a routine? I kept thinking how many people, the very people who are going to struggle mentally through this time are probably the people that also would love to have had a 2-week or 3-week or 4-week vacation. The only thing is they cannot see that they got given that. What they will do is see that they got what's the word? Their freedom taken away. All right. And it's not about freedom being taken away. It's about your life being saved. Do you understand? It's about how do you choose to see this? It's not that I can't go out in my car. I do. I was out in my car yesterday. I make sure that part of my weekly routine is to take my car out and drive it for at least half an hour. And by the way, yesterday I even drove it for more than that because I decided I'd take it to the highway and I'd put pedal to the metal, whatever, the pedal to the metal. Yeah, I'd actually burn off some carbon because I thought that was healthy for my car. And so twice a week, I make sure I get in my car and I go drive somewhere. For no reason other than to drive my car and have that, have the windows open and the air blowing through my hair. All right, so Sakura is saying, I understand. I want to help keep people safe. I'm slowly doing a routine, but I haven't had a routine for a long time now. So I just do what my body and skin would let me. Yes. However, I think you'll find that when you get your routine back, you will also find that your body and skin react differently. All right, so the other thing that I want you to think about is your routine balanced? All right, don't work too hard. Hang on a second, I want to read what Isabel's saying here. All right, so Isabel's saying she's being called a hypochondriac because I don't want Daniel to go inside his mother's house when he goes to give her groceries. Or when I say I have trouble. Is that breathing? You have trouble breathing? Or is that breathing? Breathing. Yeah, I think it's breathing. Maybe autocorrect. Okay, yeah, breathing. Okay, so when I say I have trouble breathing, it makes me mad because I found this word very negative. Is it negative? To have trouble, but you have asthma. Am I correct, Isabel? You have all sorts of preconditions. So I'm pretty certain that you also have a level of anxiety. Is it negative to say that you have trouble breathing? No, it's a fact. Let me give you an example of that, Isabel. I remember being with a counselor once, a therapist, and I remember saying, I don't want to sound egotistical, but this is what happened, and I was, it was interesting because after about a couple of weeks, this therapist said to me, why do you start these incredible stories about the things that you've done in your life with the words, I don't want to sound egotistical, but. And I said, well, I guess because so many people think that that's egotistical of me to tell stories about the people I've met and where I've been. And I remember, Isabel, that this guy said to me, "Is it the truth, Sal?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Is it the truth? Did you meet, the Crown Prince of, Morocco?" And I said, "Yes." So then why is that egotistical? The fact that, the fact that other people haven't is their problem. You have. And, it's not egotistical for you to say that you met him in the middle of a story, if it's relevant to the story. Or, did you meet Steve McQueen, the actor? Yes. Or, in quite a few actors and so forth. Yes, I did. Well, therefore, it's okay. Now, if you keep name dropping it for the sake of whatever, that's name dropping. That's a different thing. But it's not egotistical. It's a fact. So, Isabel, hypochondria is not negative. It is a diagnosis. But the thing is, Isabel, it's not hypochondria if you have the problem. All right? It's hypochondria if you imagine the problem. Right? A hypochondriac is somebody that is constantly complaining about different illnesses. Jody, could you do me a favor, honey, if you can? Just look up the official definition of hypochondria for us, just so that we can make sure that it's correct. So I don't think that, with what I know of your medical history, Isabel, the fact that you are having a bit of difficulty breathing is not hypochondria, if that is true for you. And by the way, I noticed that this week, I suddenly had a problem with the state of my house. I realized that I wasn't feeling right and I couldn't work it out for a while. And then I thought, something? I have emptied so many boxes that I now have everywhere in my house has got stuff on it. All right. And you can't necessarily see it, but there's stuff on my dining room table. There's stuff everywhere. And I said, I am going to stop unpacking for at least a week until I've got everything tidied away or thrown away, because I can't do it. Right? All right. So Jody is saying, thank you, Jody. For those of you who don't know, Jody is our phenomenal admin. Always making me look good. All right. So a person who is abnormally anxious about their health. All right. So hypochondria is when you are constantly talking about your health and anxious about it. Do you think, for example, Isabel, that Jody has every reason to be a hypochondriac, with all that's going on in her life? Yeah, but, funny enough, it's really strange when Jody does have a moment and has a vent about something going on with her medical stuff, she actually apologizes for it. It's quite amazing. And I'm going, I don't think that she needs to apologize for it. She very rarely mentions what's going on in her medical history. We all know what's going on, but she very rarely talks about it. It's not the focus of her day. So I think, Isabel, like all things, if you want to make sure that you are a mental survivor, ask yourself, is it true? Am I being abnormally anxious about my health? I am at the moment at heightened, not anxiety as much as concern about my inability to get my back working properly. As you know, I've had problems with my left hip, but I'm working on them. I'm aware that I have issues, therefore I'm doing something about it. So, Isabel, when you say you have trouble breathing, don't be mad at yourself. It's a fact. When I get out of bed in the morning, I I get a little frustrated because I can't jump out of bed the way I used to 20 years ago. I literally have to crawl to the edge of my bed and then get my legs down and then sort of use my upper body strength to get into a vertical position. That's scary for me. I've never had to do that. But I don't think I'm being a hypochondriac. Hi, Kimmy. I think I'm being honest. It's a problem. By the way, I decided that maybe yoga would help strengthen my back. And I sat, it was really quite funny. Let me just get my, I sat on the floor and then I went to lie on the floor, Isabel. And what I found was how extremely difficult and painful it was for me to fly flat on the floor. But what I wanted to do was some yoga because I thought yoga would help. And the funny thing was, the person on the yoga was sitting on the ground, you know, in this position. And, you know, it looked so easy. I sat on the ground and I noticed that my angle was like this. There is no way I could get my body to sit upright. Now, Isabel, do you understand that that's a reality? It's not being a hypochondriac, that's a reality. All right? So now the next thing I go is, obviously I need a lot more work. And one of my benchmarks is when I can sit upright like that, I will know I've done a lot of work. Because right now, my hips do not want to let me sit upright. And I want to be able to do that. It looked so simple. This was the basic yoga. And she sat like that, and I'm going, don't I wish? By the way, she then said, lie down. And she just lay down. I'm going, hold on a second. You know, and I am struggling to lie down. And when I did, it was amazing how painful it was. So I don't think that's being hypochondriac. Right. Jody's saying, I've been getting frustrated with my hands. The arthritis has been getting worse. And I know that's to be expected, but I still have days where I just want to be in a snit about it. Strangely enough, Jody knows that I also had problems with my arthritis. Hi, Jamie, this week. I've really got a problem with this finger. You can probably see. It just doesn't want to go. Yeah, it is. This knuckle is really sore. But, and also I'm finding this knuckle here is as well. And I'm going, of course it is. I'm 72, you know, I am not 20 anymore. And I have, you know, been doing a lot of gardening, and that's cold and wet and, you know, all those sort of things, and hard work on my hands. So yeah, I'm not really surprised. However, what I'm really glad about, Isabel, is that you're talking about it. So do you understand the difference between what is factual and what is being a hypochondriac? All right? That's what I want you to understand. So is Jody being a hypochondriac because she's mentioning the fact that her arthritis is flaring up a bit this time of the year? No. But if the only conversation we ever heard from Jody was about what's wrong next in her body, then I think that's being a hypochondriac. All right? If Kimmy talks about her asthma, I don't think she's being a hypochondriac. I think she's talking about the reality of her life, which is difficult. So the first thing Scott Kelly talked about was the routine, that he made sure he kept to his routine because his routine included a bit of everything. And that's what I keep talking to you about, that if you want to keep your mental health, you need to keep your routines going. You need to do something that's constructive in some way. You want to do something that's creative in some way. I've started doing a couple of online jigsaw puzzles just to keep my creative mind and logical mind working together, all right? Because I find I don't normally do jigsaw puzzles, but I'm taking time to do one online every day, just so that I can, do the problem solving and everything that's required, and the connection of colors and all those sort of things to keep my mind going actively. What Scott said as well was that he paced himself. I noticed that I was having this mental shift about the state of my house. And I realized that I had been going forward too much and not kept up with the cleaning up as much. And therefore, my house was beginning to look like a mess. And as you can imagine, that's not something I want to have happen again. So what I said to myself was, you're going to stop. You're going to stop unpacking. You're going to stop unpacking until you've got everything put away, and then you can start again. Now, does that mean that I won't unpack anything? No, because, it's just human nature now. But what I'm concentrating on is tidying up rather than making a mess. And if in doing that, I find a home for something, that's fine. But at the moment, I am tidying up, not making more mess. All right. I am pacing myself. By the way, I found that the night before last, I really had trouble sleeping, partly to do with this state my house was in. And then I said, okay, so you need more sleep. So I made sure that I got a good 8 hours sleep last night. And I'm pretty sure I did, maybe more, because that's what I need. And hi, Sandy, good to see you. So you understand that pacing yourself, part of that routine is, am I getting enough sleep? How about that, everybody? How do you feel? Do you feel you're getting enough sleep? Can you control your mind enough to go to sleep? Because I do believe that's part of the routine that we need to get into. Now, Jody, Lauren, and I have been accountable to each other for, oh, Jody, how long have we been doing this? Over a year, maybe two. What we do is, for example, I found that I was only getting on average about 5.5 hours sleep, and I knew that wasn't good for me. So I said to Jody and Lauren, okay, I'm going to start reporting in every day, every morning, how much sleep I've got, because I want to be accountable for the amount of sleep. I don't want it to be by chance. I want to be accountable. I want to make sure I know, and I don't lie, about the fact how much sleep I'm getting. Yeah, Jody's saying it's well over a year. And so every morning, after I get up and after I do my blood sugar testing and everything else, I will report in to the three of us. All right, and Lauren, Jody, and I have a private group together, and I will report in. This is how much sleep I got. This is what my blood sugar is, because I'm trying to be accountable on my blood sugar. And also, I like to keep track of what is my resting heart rate. And quite honestly, this morning it was ridiculous. It was about 54 or something. I can't remember, but it was pretty low. And so to me, it's like, I want to make sure that I am aware of those three things every morning. All right. I want to just keep track of those. And if I haven't had enough sleep, it's up to me to be proactive and do something about it, right? I need to pace myself better if I am not getting enough sleep. I need to do something about it if I'm not getting enough sleep. And so to me, it is really important. Yeah. Jody's saying that since we got accountable, Jody, you weren't getting more than a couple, 3 or 4 hours sleep a night, and that was a good night, I think, when we started this. Would that be fair? Sandy, what is great to have, honey? Yep. So Jody is confirming that when we started this, Jody was averaging about 4 hours sleep. And I said to her, we need to make you accountable for your sleep. And you know what? And I said, we need to make you accountable for your sleep, because if you get accountable, you will sleep better. Jody, how much sleep do you get on average now after a year of being accountable? Because you know that every day you're going to have to tell the truth on that one. Oh, Sandy, find somebody to buddy up with, all right? And get accountable on certain things. And, make that commitment to them and to yourself. You're not going to lie to them. You don't need to. They're trying to help you. And so Jody's saying she was getting about 4 hours maximum, and now she averages 6.5. And Jody, how much has changed? Not a whole lot, right? You're just doing it better because you know you're going to have to report in every day. And, it's not that we're perfect. I clocked in yesterday and I only had about 3 hours sleep. It was 3 or 4 hours or something. It was a bad night. But it was a bad night because my mind was elsewhere, which told me I needed to up my routine. Sandy, have you heard me talk about a 2x4? And have I ever hit you with one? Because I would like permission to hit you with one. Verbally. Don't duck. Feel this. Sandy, I'm going to repeat what you said. Yes, I need someone to yell at me when I stay up too late. You need a mother. Why don't you try being an adult, Sandy? Think about that. And I love you dearly. And I know by the fact that you're here every week that you want to improve your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, or with Isabel or anybody. All right. The whole reason that we get together is to grow up and make ourselves responsible and accountable. So when I am going to bed too late, I wake up too late and my whole day is out of whack. Agreed? So who is the person that I need to yell at? And who is the person that needs to yell at me? Is it Jody? Jody never yells at me. That's not her job. Her job is not to yell at me. Her job is to be there so I can report to her. Yeah, Sandy, you get it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a kid that wants somebody to control them, because then I don't have to be responsible. You see, our little group is very different from that, Sandy. The little group that we have, and we've had it for years now, we actually don't ask the other people to control us. We just, are accountable to them. And like I haven't been doing a good job on doing X, Y, and Z. I need to own that. And this is what I plan to do about it. This is my action. Yeah, Jody's saying we don't yell at each other. We are accountable. I want to tell you something, Sandy. There was one point very early on, before I got to know Lauren as well as I do now, where a year ago, just over a year ago now, I believe, she was doing some action that I thought could be literally killing her. All right. She had something going on in her body, and as you probably know, she's in a wheelchair, and she had some infection going on in her foot that everything she was talking about told me this was not good, and it was not good in a really bad way. And she needed to go to hospital, and she kept saying, oh, it's not that bad. And I eventually got angry, and I told her that I was angry, and I said, I'm angry because I need to talk to you like a 3-year-old because you're behaving like one. And I said, I believe from what you've told me that you have a serious problem going on and you need to be in a hospital. But if you want to die, you carry on ignoring that. That's your right. And I want to tell you, I am not interested in your foot anymore until you've been to hospital. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Grow up. Now, it's the only time, I think, in the time that I've known Lauren, that I spoke to her like that. And I asked permission first, of course. And she went. And do you know what they told her at the hospital? If she'd waited another 24 hours, she'd be dead. So sometimes we do need somebody to yell at us. But I would like to suggest that most times we need to yell at ourselves. All right? That is the whole point about being accountable, is I'm not going to ask somebody else to do my job for me. One of the things that Scott Kelly talked about was, there was one time that he had to go outside the space station in his whole suit and everything, and he got disoriented. And he literally was upside down and he didn't know which side was up and he didn't know which part of the space station he was looking at. Can you imagine you're traveling, in orbit at an incredible speed, and what that must feel like? And if I get this wrong, I could get snagged on something and that could be the end of my life. I just thought that was really interesting. And you know what he said? He said, if I were doing this for the first time, I probably would have panicked a bit. But he said to be an astronaut is to repeat these sort of things over and over and over again. Part of the training is to put you into these life-threatening situations so you learn not to panic. Does that make sense? So he said all I needed to do was to breathe and go through my mental checklist. What am I looking at? Which direction am I going? All those, where's my hose connection? Because that's going to be connected to the right place, and all those sort of things. And he said, I just had to go back to my routines. When I went back to my routine of what I know, then I was calm again. He said, in fact, I never really got anxious. It was just like, oh, what did I just do? Yeah, so Kemi, I'm glad you got to see the doctor. What did he say? If you'd like to share it, or if you want to tell those of us who care but don't want me to repeat it, just let me know. The other thing I found really important was that Scott Kelly said, it is really important to have a hobby. For your mental health, it is really important to have a hobby. And he decided that he was going to take up photography in space. That was going to be, he was going to study it and he was going to practice it and he was going to have photography as his hobby. Now that I think was a pretty clever thing to do. And how many of you have tried a new hobby while you've been isolated? Kemi's asking, does anybody else have checkpoints going out in or out of their state? How would they know? I guess they would know if they'd seen that on the news. I would think so. Yeah. my guess would be yes, Kimmy, because you're not meant to be traveling. Therefore, they would want to know why you are. Kimmy's saying, okay, first of all, Jody's saying, yes, I think several states have them. Yeah, I believe so as well, Kimmy. Kimmy's saying, we talked about my nausea and lack of appetite. He wanted me to keep a log of my blood glucose. Welcome to my world. You will be amazed how your blood glucose affects your mood as well. Yeah. And the funny thing is, Jody, I've noticed that whereas probably a month ago, I'd be quite upset that my blood glucose is at the level that it is, higher than normal. I'm actually not freaking out about that. All right. I'm not freaking out about it because I'm going, no, this is not worth freaking out about. As long as you're within this range, just let it be. Kimmy's saying that you can travel. Yeah, you can travel, but you need a letter from the CDC to say it's important. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I'm saying that that's what they're checking for. Are you some sort of idiot that's just not listening to the rules, or are you traveling with permission from the CDC? Yeah, and I think there's a difference in that, Kimmy, right? So you do keep a log of your blood glucose, but you didn't have it with you at the time. Okay. All right. So Isabel's saying, I can't go to Montreal anymore. Not that I would go now, but our region is isolated for 2 weeks. Yeah, it has been isolated for 2 weeks. I've been isolated. I think this is my 3rd or 4th week, all right, that I isolated myself. The only time I drove my car and got out of it was to go to the bank. And that's the only thing that I did in all this time that was in any way a risk. And I needed to do that. And the reason I needed to do that is I wanted cash money on hand in my house in case any of the people that I cared about got into serious trouble. I wanted to be able to help. Hi there, from Lockdown, County Cork. Hi, Trina. Good to see you. And, I want you all to understand that having a hobby, starting a hobby now would be a really good idea. That hobby that you're saying, I'd love to do that, but I don't have time. You do have time. I think that in so many ways, this lockdown will teach us all a new way of life. Right. Jody's also saying that she's not stressing too much over her blood sugar numbers as well. All right. And that's an important thing. It's not that I'm not being aware of them or keeping track. All right. It is, I am choosing not to stress out about the fact that they're a little bit higher. Why? I can't eat as many fresh vegetables as I was doing before because I don't have them. Those sort of things. I'm eating more carbs because part of my hobby is cooking new things. So, it's just like, it's as long as it is still okay, I'm okay. Oh, and Kimmy's saying her blood glucose is doing great. I'm proud of you. Well done. Have you thought about, you've got a smartphone, haven't you, Kimmy? Because what you might want to do is, if you have got a smartphone, is to open up a Google Sheet and keep your information in Google Sheets. And therefore, if you go to the doctor, you can just click into it and show him. Just a thought. If I've got anything that I want to show the doctor, then, I either take it and do a screen grab of it so that I can show him. And I do it all the time. I actually will take screen grabs of my Fitbit information. So if we start talking about how are you doing, I will go, here's a picture of my exercise, here's a picture of my weight, here's a picture of my gut, and I just literally go down and show him. And I'm really interested how many times he takes notes. Because what I want, a picture paints 1,000 words, Kimmy. When he sees that my graph on my weight, which way is it for you guys? Okay. The graph of my weight, if it shows that it's doing this, the overall angle is this, it's going down. All right. And that's what he wants to know. All right. So Jody is also reminding us that we know why the numbers are higher. It's not just a complete lack of discipline. There's a legitimate reasons why our meals have changed. Yeah, exactly. And therefore, ipso facto, which is the upmarket way of saying therefore, ipso facto, because we're not on the same diet, it will change our numbers until we learn to adjust those new numbers. Another thing that Scott Kelly said was that he listened to music. All right, so Trina's saying everyone here over 70 is cocooned. They call it not allowed out. I'm not allowed out. I am high risk. I'm 72, high risk because of my lung history. But it doesn't mean I can't drive my car, Trina. That's how I look at it. It's called twice a week. I get out and I go drive my car to charge up the battery because I don't want to be in an emergency situation and not be able to drive my car. So to me, getting out, but not getting out of the car, except for a really important thing. I haven't been, that's the only time I've been out of the house in 3 weeks. Right? Is to drive my car. And I haven't got out of it except the one time I got out because I needed to what do you call it? Needed to get the money. And I wasn't going to rest properly unless I had that money in the house. I knew that. And saying we deliver shopping, etc., to our parents. Yes, I wish that I had that availability. And now I do have, I'm certain Doug would deliver groceries to me. And I might just ask him to grab some vegetables for me if I feel the need. Oh, that's interesting. Trina's saying we're not allowed out at all, no car, etc., in case an accident. And yeah, yeah. To me, not so much. I will continue to charge up my car, and I will double check whether I'm allowed to use my car. I guess I could sit in it and charge the battery. That's actually an interesting point. I'll have to check what the law is here in BC. I'm not sure about that. So check whatever your local state laws are about that. Thanks for adding that, Trina. That's an important thing. So Scott Kelly said he listened to music. How many of you find that listening to music helps you? I would say that it's really important to not play it too loudly. And I want to say this because I believe that a lot of people are going to get pretty antsy. So if you happen to live in an apartment building and you're going to play music, keep it so only you can hear it, not your neighbors. Because I think people will get more and more short-tempered right now. Sakura is saying, Mama Sal, I read a post about this quarantine has happened before. And grandmother was talking about my mother being pulled out of school, and her mother came and stayed with her for weeks. And they became stronger together. And now the daughter is doing it on her own, daughter and granddaughter now. Yes. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it would be now. I am pretty certain, Sakura, you're from the Philippines originally, right? Because I'm pretty certain it's going to be very difficult for you that I think it's just starting to hit the Philippines, that you're not going to be able to be there to support the family at this time. And I am certain they understand that and so forth. But it could be that somewhere in that extended family, you're going to lose family members and you're not going to be able to go to a funeral. That would upset everybody even more. But the truth is, this is not about that. It is about staying alive. And so that's why I kept saying to everybody, I want you to be prepared, not scared. I want you to talk about this with your families, that if something happens, you're not coming to a funeral. And therefore, funerals need to be either, there needs to be a memorial a year later when this is over. All right, so it's really important that you talk about these things so that nobody expects it, all right? Yeah. So, yeah, or via Zoom. Kimmy, I was talking about Zoom recently, and apparently there's been a security issue on Zoom, and enough that it was quite serious. And so therefore be careful. I think the CEO did make a public statement and say they were looking in it, but it was pretty difficult from a security point of view. And I don't know if you are aware of that. Just want to make sure you know. What Scott Kelly also said was that he lived every day with enthusiasm and excitement. Jody took up a new hobby. And I'm pretty certain that her new hobby did not fill her full of enthusiasm and excitement every day. I am pretty certain that at the beginning, the idea gave her lots of enthusiasm and excitement, but then the realities, for example, she decided she wanted to make masks for people. And, it is so funny when you take that idea, you can imagine how that felt. I can do something. I have a sewing machine. I can get the supplies I need because of Amazon or whatever, I can get them delivered and then I can make masks. And she got pretty excited. And then she found the sewing machine, but not the cord that plugs it in. Now, I totally understand that one. So not all things, when you try new hobbies or whatever, are going to be exciting the whole time. It's going to challenge you, which is a good thing. So now what happened is she's sitting there going, and she got so frustrated with it, she ordered a new plug. In the meantime, Lionel, being Lionel, said, but wait a minute, isn't that the same sort of plug that goes in the printer? Why don't we try to see if the printer plug will power the sewing machine? And it did. So that's what I need you all to know. Get creative, as Lionel did. Now, I'm pretty sure that the moment that Lionel worked that one out, that Jody was really excited, and she's another step forward in her quest to do what she wants to do. You see, getting a new hobby uses different parts of our brain, uses different parts of our creativity and everything, and it's a really good thing. Sakura's asked me whether doing puzzles, board games was a hobby. Of course it is. If you don't normally do it, all right, or if you're making time for it and it's creative and it uses your brain and everything, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sakura is saying, I started listening to audiobooks for free from the library, playing board games with my husband, organizing dishes, laundry, throwing away garbage, drinking more water, and new recipes. All incredibly good things to do for your mental health. Which one have you enjoyed the most? Now, Kim is saying, my daughter has my machine, otherwise I would make masks. You might, any way you can get it back, Kimmy? Jody's saying, you are 100% correct. I love that. I love the idea of being able to help, but the logistics, oh, yikes. It's a process for sure. Trying to locate the supplies during this time is interesting too, one step at a time. Yeah, and what I also warned you about, Jody, is be aware your back is really going to feel it. That's a very awkward angle. You don't realize how awkward the angle of being at a sewing machine is if you haven't done it for a long time, right? So I said to Jody, make sure your back is supported. You know, I almost wanted to say to you, get Lionel to strap a straight board down your back so that you don't hunch over the bad way, all right? Oh, Sakura saying, I'm busy beating hubby at board games. I don't normally do that. Must be very exciting for you. So there you go. Jody is saying to Kimmy that they are now showing you how to make no-sew masks. Okay, so you're using fabric glue. Yeah, Jody's saying maybe he should strap me to the ironing board. Yes, but you know what I'm saying? Or maybe, you know, but think about that. Have you got, you've probably still got long bandages from when your feet were compressed, Jody. Am I correct about that? Because what I'm thinking is maybe get him to wrap your shoulders so that they are pretty straight. A couple of hundred, yeah. And you understand what I'm saying? That you might sort of make, you know, from tensor bandages, make yourself something that keeps your shoulders pretty straight. Yeah. So again, but is it a good idea? I think, you know, it's a wonderful idea what Jody is doing because it's challenging her. She's not just sitting around thinking about herself and her illness and her how difficult it's going to be for her pain meds and all that. She is busy thinking beyond that. So Scott Kelly said he lived each day with enthusiasm and excitement. I see Jody living each day trying to take one more step. You know, she doesn't expect it to be perfect, and it hasn't been. Everything has been a challenge. By the way, I got to try for the first time in my life because some powdered peanut butter. And you know, when I got it, you probably heard me say, you know, what do I do with it now that I've got it? You know, it's just like I've never had that. And then what else did I get? I also got some powdered meringue. I did not like the taste of this, so I didn't do something right. I'm going to practice with that. Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is that it's not what we can't do, all right? Yet again, all right? I know what your mental state is in. If you are busy, are you somebody that's giving excuses? Or are you somebody that's saying, what can I do? All right? It's not what I can't do. See, Jody immediately says, if you haven't got a machine, I've seen videos where you don't need a machine. So Jody thinks one step to the positive. Now, it doesn't mean that Kimmy has to do it. Maybe she doesn't really want to. But, you know, and luckily the machine was in another state. But, you know, the truth is that if she really wants to do it, she will probably be interested in how to do it without a sewing machine. And Jody, of course, being Jody, says, you know, I'll gladly forward you the links to those videos. So the most important thing I think that Scott Kelly talked about for me when I was reading about him was he didn't worry about things he could not control. Now, can you imagine he's up there in space orbiting around? How boring must that be? You know, I mean, the first time you see the you know, the US from the space station must be very exciting. When you're saying it that many times, for a year, and that's the only, you don't get to see a change of seasons. You don't get to see, all that stuff going on. It's not raining today or whatever. You just keep getting the same picture time and time again. I'm pretty sure you must get pretty bored. But what he said was he did not worry about what he could not control. Now, while he was up there, one of the things that happened was his sister-in-law, Gabby, was shot, remember? And they were playing, I think, a game of baseball or something, and she was shot along with some other senators, and she luckily survived. Now, what he said was he knew there was something serious going on because the International Space Command down back on Earth put through a call, and they said, Commander Kelly, we need to, well, I think he's commander, I'm not sure. Anyway, but we need to speak to you on a secure line, or however they worded it, which meant they need to speak to him where nobody else can hear what they are saying. And he knew then something terrible had happened, because they don't do that normally. Normally, it's a pretty open line. And so he said in that moment, he realized something, they needed to give him bad news of some sort. They was pretty sure of that. And then he heard what happened to his sister-in-law. And what he said was, in that instant, he realized that he could do nothing for Gabby at that time, but he could help his brother, his twin. And what he did was he immediately made, they were able to make telephone calls down to Earth, and he made a telephone call down to his brother and said, I am here, and I am unable to do anything physically to help you, but I can help you mentally. And I want you to know I'm here for you. And, you need to talk about this. We will find extra time to do that and whatever. So, it's like he didn't worry about what he couldn't do for his brother. He concentrated on what he could do. Yeah. Yeah, Jody, that's what I thought as well, that, when they're going around the first few weeks, the sight must be incredible, to see the earth come out of shadow and everything. But, after a while, it's going to be, yeah, there it goes again. Yeah. And again, he took up photography. Seriously, how many pictures did he take of the earth? He must have got really detailed in what he wanted to take in that shot, and I can imagine that he probably took thousands upon thousands of pictures of that shot out of that same window, and then he was perfecting it, in some way. So do you understand that, some of you may have heard that today, again, the president of the US is talking about, getting everybody, or not everybody, but getting, life back to normal on May 1st. And, right next to him is the medical guy saying, no, I don't think we should be doing that. And it's amazing because it's like, who's going to win this unless, the world stops here. And, it's just like, he's, the president's going to do it because he wants to kickstart the economy, but, everybody else is telling him, please don't do that because you're just going to make the situation worse. So, what do you think? Who's going to win this? I heard that he even wants to start baseball up again. All right. It's just like, Baseball made a bit more sense to me because, people are spread out a bit. But then I'm thinking, but when you run to first base, the baseman's got to be there. You can't keep the baseman 6 feet apart. So really, what are you doing? You're asking for trouble. Yeah, Sakura is saying about this whole dichotomy between the president and the doctor guy. And she's saying the doctor will win or else we'll be in another year of lockdown. Yeah, I think that's the big thing that um, that he that he just isn't getting because he doesn't want to. He wants to get the economy going again before the American people have to go to the polls. I understand that. He wants to be the superhero, but guess what? Um, you might not get that opportunity. Reality check is required, says Kimmy. Yeah. So, but it's like I see his point of view. I understand why he wants to do it. But we have not yet. Hi, Roseanne. Good to see you. Oh, Roseanne saying, plus there's an audience at games. Yes, you got but you could watch that on television. And they were saying that instead of the dugouts, they would put the players in the stands, instead of in the dugouts, so they could be separated. So it's interesting, but they would still have to, pass each other. There would still be a risk, and that you know there's so many situations. Yeah. So to me, it's about we will see, as his famous words. We'll see what happens. So good to see Erin as well. Hi, Erin. We've been talking about surviving our mental health, and I've been trying to use Scott Kelly, who was the astronaut that spent a year up in space, as the example of how you can be isolated and not have a mental health problem. But you do need to do what he did. All right. You need to be really aware of things, and you need to have a really good routine. And that routine needs to have different aspects in it. You need to keep your house clean. How many of you have noticed have any of you noticed? Let me ask you that question. Has your basic hygiene changed at all? How many of you are not bothering to get dressed in the day because you can't go out anyway? That is something that I would like you to think about. But on the other hand, if you're saying, hey, I'm on vacation, and on vacation, I would hang around in my PJs, yeah, that's also a point, all right? Understand that you have been given 2 weeks vacation if you want it. And it doesn't have to be that you've been isolated. You've been given 2 weeks off. Now, interestingly enough, Jodi's saying she is on hyper hygiene. All right. So, Jodi, do you want to give us some, for instance? Right. Sakura's saying showering had been tough and hygiene is blah. Well, this is what I want you to think about. You will know that you are mentally surviving if you still get up and go shower, if you still do those things, if you're still shaving your armpits, if that's what you do, if you're still shaving your legs, if that's what you do. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the things that you do. If you don't give up on yourself, you will feel better. Plus, it occupies more of your day. But if you are literally crawling out of bed to crawl to the couch to put on the television and eat popcorn, you know, do you understand? This is your choice. Kimmy is saying, I must be going under because, but to me, Kimmy, that's always my benchmark, right? One of the things, hi Lola, good to see you. How's the little one? In fact, both of the little ones. So one of the things that for me is always a benchmark, two things. Number one, what is my hygiene routine doing? And number two, what is the state of my home? And Kimmy, if all you do is clean all day, that is not good mental health, all right? So you need to pace yourself differently, all right? Have, only clean certain hours of the day, all right? Play for certain hours of the day. Chit chat with your friends for certain hours of the day. Yes, Erin, I was as well. That's why I wanted to talk about it. Because, I've always told you that I would be as honest as I know how in doing this. So Erin is saying, I must admit this week I have been a little bit of a funk. It's so monotonous, the same being every single day over and over. That's why I want you to understand about Scott Kelly. He was sitting in the International Space Station. He could not open the door and get some fresh air or open a window and get some fresh air. He was in that same confined space. And they say that he kept the same mental attitude from the day that he arrived to the day that he left. It never wavered. So, Erin, you might want to start reading about how he did it. Jody, listen to Jody's attitude now. I will not let this unravel every aspect of my routine. So I've been doing mini spa days with my manicures and pedicures, facials, etc. I haven't missed a shower. I'm whitening my teeth. Exactly. All right. So Kimmy's saying, I thought of going for a car ride. Well, again, check whether you're allowed to, because Trina just mentioned the fact that in some places we're not allowed to. I didn't know that, and I will have to check on that myself. Jody's saying, however, I have had a few too many Pop-Tarts, folks. Yeah, she's not in perfection. Kimmy says, I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. Well, because if you can, then go for a ride, all right? And by the way, if you need to fill up with gas, I don't know if I told you, just hold on one second. All right, so a couple of things when I go out in the car, Kimmy. Number one, I take hand sanitizer with me. By the way, I just filled this up with my own homemade stuff. So that if I have to fill up my car with gas, I do two things. Number one, I have with me a little spray bottle of rubbing alcohol. And I spray down, if I've got to use a touch screen or something, I literally will give it a spritz. Or, what I occasionally do is just spritz, what do you call it, a Kleenex, and then I wipe down whatever I've got to touch. Or you can take, if you've got one of those Thorax type wipes, take a couple in a plastic bag so you can use them. All right. But don't touch anything that you haven't disinfected, especially if you have to fill up with gas. That would include the nozzle, anything that you have to touch, or wear gloves. That's the other thing. So now the next thing is that when I get back in my car, I also spritz my steering wheel, the door handle, and everything else in case I did that. All right, so yep. So Kimmy's saying, yes, I use gloves and I rub them with sanitizer and then take them off. Yeah, and drop them in the wash and wash them every time. So that was the other thing. That was the third thing. When I come back, I drop them in the wash. Yes, now Isabel is saying, I feel so good right now with all of you and my coffee. I was thinking, Isabel, that maybe next week, if you guys would enjoy it, we would do one extra broadcast, and we do it on Facebook so we could all go up on camera. Would any of you enjoy that? So you can get to see everybody and to see who they are. And if you get a slight glitch in the broadcast, there was a slight glitch in my feed here, just so you know. So, yeah, and I was thinking, it's been a while, but I thought we'd do it on Facebook. I'm not sure how many cameras we can have going on Facebook at the same time, but I think it's quite a few. So in other words, the normal, regular viewers wouldn't have an issue. And what I will probably do is I will probably try a test run with Jody or whoever else wants to do that on Facebook to see whether everybody can just join in or whether we have to give permission for everybody to join in. I'm not sure about that. So Jody, we'll do a test run of that as part of our learning for the week. If that's okay with you. And by the way, it is okay with you, Jody, because I need it. Yeah, like the good old days. Yeah. To me, they're just the old days. They're not necessarily better than anything else, Erin. But yes, and I thought, we could try that. Because I think it is pretty important. However, I am not sure. Whether we will end up with people we don't necessarily want or whatever, so that's what I want to find out. Do we end up with trolls that we can't control, and things like that? So we'll do a couple of test runs, and then the question would be, which of the broadcasts would you like me to do that for? Because it obviously is not going to be a learning broadcast or anything. It's going to be a social broadcast. So would you like it as an extra broadcast, or do we replace one of the regular ones? Now, I realize that for some of you, maybe an extra broadcast would be something you would appreciate because you're trying to fill up more time. So it is up to you guys. And I will talk about it again this evening and again on Sunday. And once we get everybody's feedback, then we will decide on when to do it. And I will make an announcement on Facebook. And in fact, I probably will do a live video on Facebook just to let everybody know that we're going to be adding it. So now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. What is leadership in your mind? All right. In your mind, when you think about a leader, what is leadership? And type it for me so that I can see what you believe leadership is. And you see, I don't believe that leadership is a title. I believe leadership is something that we do. I know that in my life, whether I want to or not, I will always end up being a leader of some sort. It's just like, I cannot tell you how many times I will get into a situation and I will really work hard at not being a leader. Right? I will literally promise myself to keep my mouth shut and not do anything that might inspire people to think I'm a leader. And I've actually, will still end up somehow being a leader. It's just what I do. So Sakura is saying a leader for her is someone that inspires me to do something and takes lead on whatever it is. They care more about the people and for the betterment of the group. So my question to you, Sakura, is can you lead yourself? Can you inspire yourself to do something? Can you take the lead on whatever it is you want to do? And can you care more for the people around you for the betterment of that group. I believe you can. You see, I think you are a leader. Right. So Erin is saying, hey, as long as it was just the family and that there were no crazies in the room, it was fun. Yes, and that's why I thought we might bring it back in some way, especially now. If we can control the crazies, then that would be good. Yeah, Sakura is also saying, same here, Mama Sal. I shut up, but I think over the years, it's the aura we have. Hi, Sharon. Good to see you. So, how's your love life, Sharon? We haven't had an update. And you know, we don't wish to pry. Yeah, we do, Sharon. Yeah, we do. Really. I can't remember his name now. Yeah, so Sakura's saying, I have no escaping being a leader. Yeah. Jerry, there you go. Jody will inscribe that in my brain until I get it. So here we go, all right, which is like, whatever leadership is for you, understand that you need to be a leader to survive. So if you want to be mentally surviving, you need to lead your mind. Make sense? So to me, the next thing, hi, Anna Marie, good to see you. So the next thing that they say is if you want to survive anything, you need to have problem solving as part of your bag of tricks. Problem solving is somebody who goes, okay, yeah, that's a problem, but now let me work on how to fix the problem. All right. Jody having a problem with the sewing machine, but Lionel going, wait a minute, how about plan B? How about we try the lead from the printer? Excellent. All right, so hang on a second, let me get this. Sharon says, oh, she and Jerry chose to quarantine separately and they're regretting that decision now. Yeah, and can you change that decision? Yeah, Anna Marie, any news about when they might, are they closing the schools for the school year? Yeah. So to me, that's a problem solving thing, right? We decided that the best decision at the time was that we would isolate separately, but now we're, thinking, why would we? All right. So I think you could change that if you wanted to. And of course, if you end up getting sick because of it, yeah, that's the risk you take. I found it interesting that one of the things they talked about was etiquette. Do you know that one of the things that, in other words, that if you can keep your presence of mind to stay polite, to keep in touch, to have good manners and also good communication. Do you know what I'm talking about in terms of etiquette? This is like you haven't become a slob. All right. What you've done is you've taken this incredible time that you have been given and you have used it to a good use, not a bad one. I keep thinking to myself, how many people had said, oh, if only I had time, and now they've got it and they're probably wasted. I don't know about the rest of you, but I believe that one of the qualities of leadership and therefore survival is stubbornness. You need to be a bit stubborn. You need to have that. Okay. They think that I'm going to quit on this, but I'm not. For those of you who've tried making bread 13 times, try it one more time. Right? By the way, I heard from Linda in the UK that they had got the recipe for the bread starter. So I'm hoping that she and Nicholas are busy learning how to bake bread now. And Jody bought herself a new bread maker. All right. So that's a new learning as well. So, there's so many ways. And, like any new gizmo, I am pretty certain that, it takes a bit of practice to get a new gizmo working properly. That's good. Be stubborn. Keep at it until it works. It will eventually work. Now, for example, I found out that for some reason, my fancy new television with the fancy new feed that it gets, the coordination, the syncing of the mouth and the words, audio, are slightly off. And I realized that was pretty frustrating. I just learned not to look at their mouths, it's just like, really, it's not that important. And will I get it fixed? Yes, but, it's not worth risking my life over at this time. So have a stick at it attitude, all right? Learn a new skill that you've always wanted and take the time. You've got the time. So Anna Maria is telling us about schooling. She said, yes, we will not be returning to the physical classroom. All learning is now online. Yeah. For those who are lucky enough to have computers. So Anna Marie, what is your school doing about students who may not have computers? Because, to me, that is an assumption that everybody will have the ability to be in front of a computer. And I am pretty sure that some people are not. Obviously, one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself in terms of survival is emotional regulation. We spent a year talking about emotional intelligence. And what is that about? Don't get caught up in the emotion. All right. I assure you, I listen every day to the American president speak, and every day I get triggered to some degree. But then I keep listening for the medical guy to talk because I really believe what he says. All right. I think it's really important that, I realize that, please, this man alone is not making all the decisions, or even though he wants us to think that. I'm hoping that these scientists have enough ability to change that. I find it incredible that 1 minute there were 60,000 deaths, and the next day, miraculously, 20,000 deaths dropped away. How did that happen, I wonder? And maybe the PR didn't look as good if we had 20,000 more deaths than we've really got. For those of you who saw Wag the Dog as a movie, I'm not surprised at anything that happens at the moment. For those of you who have faith, and we're talking on Good Friday, some level of faith is a really important part of leadership. Oh, that is amazing. So Anna Maria is saying all students were given the option to use their school Chromebook and given info in free internet services. Isn't that wonderful? Yes. And I hope that is true on all school districts. I'm hoping all school districts have that availability. That would be wonderful. Probably Anna Marie knows more about that than I do. Well, no, probably. Anna Marie knows way more about that than I do. So, Anna Marie, let us know what you have heard from the communities and the different states, how that is working. To be aware of the meaning of your life in a spiritual way. Some of you will find that this time works for you because you have another reason to help other people. Jody with her making the masks thing. It's like we all have a reason to be who we are. And the main thing is It is a time not to think about you. It is a time to think about other people. I'm sorry to hear that. Anna Marie is saying she's not in a great place. I'm personally very disappointed. Yeah, I think a lot of people are, Anna Marie, but can you change anything? You see, my whole feeling here is thank you for that honesty, because it's really important that we get very honest with how we're feeling. And disappointed is it's an emotion, and you're allowed to have emotions. The trick is, how long are you going to stay in the hamster wheel? All right. And the question is, can you change anything to make it better? And if you can, do it. And if you can't, let it go. Yeah. You see, to me, it's really important that we are here to support each other through this, if we choose to. So, how many of you have gone out of your ways to actively keep more in touch with the people that you care about, and a few that you didn't necessarily care quite as much about? Because the daily practice of maintaining and improving your physical and mental and intellectual health, right, is going to be critical. It is, we don't know if this is for another 2 weeks, another 2 months, but it could be 2 years. What I want you to do is to say, what relationships do I want to maintain during that time? Which ones do I want to build? All right. And I believe it is possible to do. It's just going to take a bit more effort. And we've got a better reason. I'm actually going to try and get a coffee date with Marnie, for example. I thought it was really nice. Lauren suggested that Jody and I get together on a feed. And we did. And, it was wonderful to just see the faces and chit chat. And that's why, I decided, okay, maybe we should do this with the group again. There is a word called altruism, and that is your ability to care and help others. To be a survivor, you not only need to look after yourself, it is an important part of being a survivor that you think about the survival of others. Some of you probably realize that part of my experiments here about growing things from, not throwing away my carrot tops because maybe I can grow carrots. This is about, not only can I entertain you guys with the incredible progress of the butter lettuce, but there's part of me that goes, if I can prove that I can grow this lettuce on my windowsill in a wine glass, how many people could I feed that way? When I say how many people could I feed, how many people can I inspire to do the same thing and save a lot of money? And that is why I will continue to grow this particular butter lettuce in a wine glass. Because to me, this is like, boy, my only question now is, how many do I need so I don't have to buy butter lettuce? Hi there, Beth. How's your daughter, Beth? We've been trying to find out. And I'm sorry to ask you a question, but please let us know how your daughter is. So what I'm aware of is that we will need, wow, okay, Beth's saying that her daughter is better. She had an infection and a leak from surgery, yikes. So she has drains in. Okay, good. And thank you for letting us know, Beth. It was that there were a couple of mother hens. I was one. I think Jody and Lauren were two others. Where we're going, has anybody heard? So big hugs from us. And we want to, is this Victoria that's in hospital? We weren't sure which of the twins. Or is it it's Catherine is the other one, I think, right? We seem to know. We just weren't sure which one of the twins. So you're saying she's still in hospital. It's Victoria. That's what we took a guess on that. That we thought it probably was Victoria. By the way you were talking about it, she's still in hospital, but her sister works there, so she's got a second mom. That's wonderful. I'm sure you're very grateful for that. Thank you so much for the update. Yes, Beth, we appreciate that. So all of you, do you understand that your mental survival will be based on your ability to lead yourself? It won't be, if you need a group, as I told you about the fact that Lauren, Jody, and I have had this little group together for the longest time where we're accountable for our health, we're accountable. We don't give excuses, we just truth. I'm just getting there, Jody. Be patient with me. I'm just literally playing with my Jody's saying, remember the countdown. Yeah. But what I want you to do is to, thanks, Jody, to be aware that if you need a buddy, then tell the group you need a buddy, that you want to be accountable. You know, we have no idea how Kerry is. We have not heard from Kerry for quite a while. I've seen some stuff that she did on, she still puts stuff up about Dora, but I just haven't heard from Kerry. And I did actually ask the question on the fitness group, but I still haven't heard. So, you can ask questions, but if people choose not to answer, that is their right, okay? So Valentine's Day is 10 months and 9 days away for those of you who are romantic. Christmas is now only 258 days away. And so, have you made your Christmas presents while you got this time off? I haven't. We have 7 months and 25 days to get those cards in the mail. Have you written your Christmas card envelopes while you've had this time off? I haven't. US Thanksgiving is 7 months and 20 days away. Have you planned the Thanksgiving dinner? Or have you said, well, we probably won't be able to get together, so I won't? Well, something that I've learned? You could plan it for yourself. All right? If you had Thanksgiving on your own this year, would you still eat turkey or whatever and all the trimmings? That's what I do. I make sure that I do a roast for myself, complete with roast potatoes and all the trimmings, right? Because it's really important. And it's cheaper than buying other cuts of meat, by the way. Canadian Thanksgiving is 6 months and 5 days away. For your taxes, the Americans, you got 3 months. Yeah, have it on Skype or Facebook or whatever, yes. But you can have it on your own. You don't need other people. We all need other people in our lives, but you don't need other people to be happy. You need to be happy as a person. Yes, Jody bought a roast for Easter. Well done, Jody. I am so happy that you did. What sort of roast did you get? I try to rotate my roasts, all right? So, it's either, I will have, what do you call it? A fillet of turkey roast or roast beef or some sort of roast pork, like spare ribs or something. Boneless chuck. That sounds like something that would go really well in the slow cooker. Are you going to do it in the slow cooker? Oh, sounds so good. Throw in, I cannot tell you how much I found in throwing a little bit of balsamic vinegar when you're doing a beef roast. You are alone. Doesn't matter. I'm alone, Kimmy. What's your point? Wait. What's your point, Kimmy? All right. So, yes, she's going to do it in the slow cooker with onions, carrots, and red peppers. Throw some balsamic vinegar in that. And a little bit of mustard would be nice too. Yeah. I just because I'm on my own doesn't mean I can't have a roast. It's essential I have a roast because I'm on my own. All right. I consider I'm that important. Never thought of balsamic with a roast. I want to tell you something, Sharon. Balsamic vinegar is like adding a bottle of wine. You know what I mean? It just takes it from to Just try it. See what you think. I actually even had lamb, yeah, which is not something North Americans eat a lot of, but I grew up eating lamb. So I even bought, some lamb, and I try to rotate things. But I want to tell you, in these times of difficulties, it's really interesting. The one thing that's left in the meat aisle are the roasts, because people think they can't afford them. But here's the joke. It's cheaper to buy the roast, cook it as a roast, and feel that decadence, and then mince it up, chop it up, make braised beef, whatever, afterwards. Much better. Roast meat is so dry. No. Do you have a slow cooker? It's not the meat that's dry, it's how you cook it that makes it dry, right? So if you don't want meat to be dry, you need it to be put it in a slow cooker. Now, do you have a slow cooker, Kimmy? Because if you don't, plan B. I have plan B for you. I nearly dropped the light. It's so challenging for me. Summer is only, all right, Kimmy, I have yet to have any meat be dry if I cooked it in the slow cooker. Yeah, exactly. Isabel saying, are there some people that will do Easter dinner over FaceTime or Skype? Yeah, I think it's really important that you do. Yes, Kimmy's also done it in a self-basting bag in the oven. Yeah. So it's not that meat is dry, it's the way in which it is cooked that makes it dry. By the way, I've even done a roast beef on the barbecue, but what I did was I covered it with foil so that the juices kept in the meat. So, it's not the meat that's dry, it's the way that it is cooked that makes it dry. So to me, my challenge is always, no, the meat in the store here isn't good. I understand that, Kimmy, but the way in which we cook it is wonderful. If you don't think the meat in your store is good, try being in a concentration camp. You know what I mean? It's like the meat that you can get, the challenge is, how do I make this tasty? This is not about, well, I can't buy, the top of the line meat anymore. It's about, what can I do with what I can get and how can I make it tasty? That is your new challenge. Don't think about what you can't get. Think about what you can. All right, so Jody is saying, yes, Isabel, we're thinking of talking with my mom-in-law on FaceTime. Yes, I hope you enjoy your time together. We can all spend time together. It's just a little bit different. I quite agree. So, Kimmy, let's have a can-do attitude. What can I do, not what can't I do, all right? And if the meat in the store is not as good as it used to be grateful you have meat. And see how many fun things you can do. I assure you that so many people would love to have the meat that is in our stores. So many people in the world would love to have the meat that we have in our stores. I got to tell you that if you don't already know. So I wanted to let you know um, that it's been nearly 3 months since I moved into this house. So much has happened, right? And I have owned it now for nearly 2 months. And I do want to let you know that I have now nearly finished cleaning out the second tier of my kitchen garden. It's been, my exercise program. It's taken quite a bit. Yes, Judy's saying, I spoke with somebody that had lived on rice and beans for the past 14 days. All right, so Kimmy's saying that's why she doesn't eat meat very much, right? Well, that is, we know that people can eat without meat, so that's fine. The important thing is not, again, it's an attitude, Kimmy, that's what I'm saying. So is it because you have not been able to afford meat? Or is it because, what is your reason? I'm a great believer. If you can't afford meat, buy a can of Spam, add it to your rice and goodness knows what else. Get that protein in different ways. Buy a can of prawns and make a prawn, or shrimp, and make a shrimp salad. Well, if you don't like to eat it, that's a whole nother story. That's a completely different story. So, that's called choice. That's awesome. So if you choose not to eat meat, that's awesome. So you eat beans, eggs, and rice. Yeah, there you go. Great. Wonderful. So it's not about surviving on beans, egg, and rice. It's I choose to eat beans, eggs, and rice. But I also understand that if that's all you've got, you will thoroughly enjoy it. Think about this, that we have got first world problems here, not third world. Think about all the people in the third world who also don't get to eat what they want to eat. They get to eat what is available. So, to me, this is about if you are eating, be grateful. If you have the ability to find a roast, cook it and enjoy it. If you don't enjoy meat, then obviously do the best you can. I found out that I had too many eggs in my fridge. I suddenly realized the expiry dates were interesting. So I went, okay, I guess I'm going to be eating a lot of boiled eggs in the coming couple of days. So, it's about let's do the best we can and enjoy it. All right? Let us have a can-do attitude. This is what I can do. Don't concentrate on what you... Roseanne, are you still here listening? Did I understand that you moved? I just want to make sure I understood that correctly. I don't know why, as part of me going, did I dream that or did it really happen? Anyway, let's hope that I get an answer on that one. So everybody, let us stay mentally above this. If watching the news depresses you, stop watching the news so much. All right? You watch it anyway because you need to be kept up to date. It's important. It could save your life. But don't watch it nonstop. If you're lying in bed all day long, that is not good for your mental health. All right? I want to make sure that you understand that your mental survival only happens if you take control of it, if you are the leader of your mental survival. And like Scott Kelly, right, I assure you that he lived on warmed up packets that you put some hot water on, right, dehydrated stuff for a year. You know, I am pretty certain they didn't have too much fresh fruit and whatever. Imagine what it was like to actually eat fresh fruit. And that's why I was saying when I ran out of fresh vegetables, I went, I can do this. You know, I have dried, by the way, do any of you have dried vegetables in your storage? I'm starting to think about getting some dried mushrooms, maybe some sun-dried tomatoes and whatever, right? Because I think it is probably not a bad idea. And, you know, if you can get, I can't reach it. You know, maybe some dried vegetables, you know, so that you can add to soups and things if necessary. Think about that. You might never need them, but what if you did? All right, Sharon's saying she's got dried beans. Yeah, actually, hang on, Sharon. What have I got here? I just realized I've got my step stool so I can get to it. There we go. Obviously not somewhere where I can get to it too quickly. But I've got things like pearl barley. I've got green split peas. Yeah, so think about that, you know, because this could go into the fall and maybe vegetables get to be very expensive. The other thing I wanted to give you a heads up on while I think about it, do you understand that all your favorite television shows are going to stop pretty soon? You won't be seeing new episodes. Why? Did you think about that? Movies, we won't be seeing new movies. Or they're going to get very creative about how they shoot these things. All right? So the way in which they're shot will be totally different. We're going to learn a lot. All right, everybody. So hang in there, and we will do some experiments on doing a group chit chat with visuals, you know, with people up on video on Facebook. We'll do some practicing of that this week and maybe do one next week. We'll see how things work out. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting one another. Thank you for staying interested in the literally the free garden. And I hope, Jody, thank you for telling me about powdered peanut butter. I am amazed. It does taste really good in yogurt. And I did it with something else. I think I put some in some, whipped some up with some cream cheese just to see. So I'm having fun with it. However, I need more practice with the meringue. It definitely had a funny taste, but that means I'm not doing it right. So here we go. Let us do the best we can with what we've got. All right? And let us be so grateful for the entertainment that we have, for the way, the technology we have, for the fact that we don't have to be alone. We can sit down and have a virtual meal with our family if we want to. I think for that, we need to be very, very grateful. For the fact that our children can still be taught because they can be taught digitally. I think we have a lot to be grateful for, and we have an awful lot to be sad for, and both emotions are good. I took that moment this week and when I realized that I was in some sort of funk going on, and I went, you need to stop. You need to stop and get enough rest and stop doing and just take a day off, or 2 days off if that's what you need. You see, pacing is really important. And if you're doing too much, that means that you are out of balance. And I needed to get back into balance. So this is Dear Mama Sal saying, yeah, I have no idea why it's growing this way, Jody, but this has definitely got your name on it. Isn't it wonderful? I don't really mind that it's growing that way. It's just like, I keep turning it and it's still growing like that. So I think it's magical. Yeah, it's a work of art and it's definitely unusual. And what a great use of too many wine glasses. And by the way, just because it's important to me, I guess, but all the geraniums that I brought from my previous house survived the winter, and I'm going to take them outside and put them in the shed. When in the shed, I've got this 29-foot of covered deck, putting them out deck area so that they're still covered, but they're getting the fresh air. They're going to go out there now for the next month before I plant them ready for the summer. So this is going to be a very exciting time for me agriculturally. This is Dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now, everybody. See you soon.